All right, this across my lap, this is Maya, and this is Lyla. I was going to say Layla, but it's Lyla. Lyla. There we go. All right, and this is the roadmap to success. They're both really happy dogs. Lyla has some dog reactivity issues. Maya actually has had a couple protective issues. Maya's the older dog. Lyla came in as a puppy. And so Lyla went after Maya, and so they get along great. And I'm not seeing a residual. A lot of times when you see fights like this, the dogs actually keep space. They're not. And the last fight was about 2 years ago. So I don't think, I'm not as worried about that, but when that fight happened, it was during an excitable period of time. Many people confuse excited for happy. If you look at Maya right now, you see her mouth is open. We interpret that as a smile. When I hold it up, there we go. Like, we interpret that as a smile. But that actually usually means the dog is stressed or overly tired. And if I have an important life decision, I'm not going to make it when I'm overly excited or stressed. And so because we interpret that with excitement, when we see that dog mouth open like that, oh, you want to go for a walk? You want to go for the ball? Where's the ball? Where's the ball? You want to get the ball? You want to get the ball? And then we wonder why they make mistakes. And because in our mind as human sociology, we assign the excited energy as the happiness, so we try to get them more and more excited. So the very first thing that's really going to be important for the guardians here to recognize is that excitement is not the same as happy. They can be at the same time, but we want to really mitigate the excitement as much as we can. Can you take her out and fetch her a little bit? Or you? Either one. I might need somebody to stop the video, but she's going to bark the whole time. She's a demand barker. But we'll talk about the demand barking here in a sec. But basically for the dogs, if you have dogs overexcited and we pet them, anything your dog is doing when you pet it is what you're specifically amplifying or rewarding. Here's another little kicker. Good attention and bad attention from us is pretty much the same thing to a dog. So if the dog is barking, I'm like, shut up, stop. Well, you shouldn't yell at your dog, number one. But you yell at a barking dog, they just think, cool, now we're both barking. Or if we come home and they're all excited, we pet them and we're like, hey, calm down, calm down. Well, the only time I'm hearing the word calm down is when I'm excited. So clearly calm down is the command word to get excited, which is the opposite of what we mean. Also, you're petting me. So clearly you like what I'm doing at the time. So when anyone comes home, I'd like them to ignore the dogs completely. Now, if you have a guest at the door, I'd like you to do what I did with Taylor when we first arrived. Now, elements or weather permitting. We're in the Midwest, it's going to be cold, and there might be days you don't want to do that. But if everything's okay, have people come to the door, open the inside door, this glass door is closed, and just have the person wait until the dogs, they're going to bark, 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 bark. And as soon as they kind of calm down, I start reaching for the handle. They got excited, pull my arm back. Waited for them to calm down, reached again. It was about 4 or 5 reaches before I could actually touch the handle. And then they stayed seated. I wasn't telling them to sit. And while you're doing this, it's important, and I'd ask the guardian not to say anything, but a lot of times we say, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. Well, the only time I hear it's okay is when I'm going excited. So clearly it's okay means get excited and mark at the door. So no response from the humans whatsoever. The only response we're gonna give is operant conditioning. So when you're calm, I start reaching for the door to enter. As soon as you get excited, I stop that process. And the timing of that is really, really important. Dogs learn through repetition, consistency, and good timing. You have essentially 3 seconds to correct or reward a dog. So as soon as the excitement starts, pull your arm back and go about your business. When you come home, pretend like they're not even there, if they're free. I have a kennel training exercise. I forgot to ask the guardian, but I'm guessing that when she goes to open the kennels, which actually the camera's on top of, that they're pretty excited, correct? So if you go to doggoneproblems.com, you can click on where it says dog training tips. That's the section where I have videos like this one. And you want to search for Ray, like the Star Wars character, R-E-Y. There's a video where I go over kennel exiting exercise. And so I basically stand in front of the kennel with the door open and I back up, kind of the same way what I showed you in the kitchen, but don't get too far away. They can't rush out. We wait for the dog to be calm before we start that process. And what I'd probably do is I'd walk up and I'd stand about here. There's 2 kennels really side by side. And I'd wait for whoever's calmer. Whoever's calm, I start reaching for that dog. He gets excited, pull back. Maybe the other dog calms down. I reach this way. Now, if it's too hard with both of them, are cascading off each other, have one of them out and just work with them one at a time. But teaching the dogs, I'm only going to let you out of the kennel when you're calm is another great way to develop a little bit of self-control and help mitigate some and deplete some of that excess energy. Or the excited energy, I should say. That's when you come home, and when you're coming and going, don't make a big deal about it when you come and go, and don't pet them until they're calm. And you might have 10, 15, 20 reaches and pullbacks. That's okay. Keep doing that until eventually they're calm, you reach for them, and you can pet them under the chin, and they stay calm without that wiggle butt. Now that is happy, excited, but again, we just want them to practice not being excited. And so we look for opportunities to teach them through day-to-day lives instead of actually trying to teach them when we have a guest come over. That's the worst time to try to teach them. So we look for ways where we can build it in our regular day-to-day life. Now, they're both high energy dogs. They both need more exercise. Their guardian used the same word that about 95% of my clients, when I ask them how much exercise your dogs get, they say the exact same 2 words: not enough. So everybody knows it, but we live in the Midwest. It's not exactly wonderful outside all times of year. And also we have dogs that are reactive, which Lyla is. It makes you kind of a little bit wary of going for walks. So there's a couple of things we can do. We went over Doggy Stairmaster, which is throwing the treats up and down the stairs. Now for this one, because it's a split level, we might use the partner and have the partner come over, and so we can gotta go up and down the stairs. But a lot of times I do it with treats. I throw the treat to the first landing because it's a split level house. They get to the first landing, then the dog looks up and I'm holding a treat over the railing for the next landing. And I drop it down the bottom. Again, make sure you police the bottom. There's not a lot of shoes and stuff, so the treats get lost, and a nice light color so I can see it. So when the dog licks it up from going all the way to the bottom, I would say the word like Jamaica or Cuba, some word that means go south. Then call the dog back up at the top of the stairs, give the dog a treat, say the word Canada. Canada means go up the stairs, Jamaica means go down the stairs. Remember, use fun command words whenever possible. A lot of my clients push back on this. This is cutting edge dog training because dogs can read facial expressions. So in about 5 years, every dog trainer will be like, oh, crash should be how you say lay down. But if you do that, especially when you have dogs that are, there's tension, there's not a lot of tension for the most part, but just coming up with those fun command words is a nice motivation for the dogs to want to do it. And if you have dogs that are aggressive or negative or your anxiety, coming up with those fun words can really help mitigate it. So the first time, remember, with an empty stomach, throw the treats up and down the stairs until the dog just says, you're crazy, up and down there 93 times. Now we know what the maximum number is. And again, do this with them separately, especially at first. Then we want to exercise them 50 to 75% at maximum number multiple times a day. Now they look like they're in great shape, but all of these exercise deals, I want you to talk to your vet, especially if there's any indication that it's not going well for them. You're seeing limps or stiffness or stuff like that. They're both young. I don't think there's going to be problems, but some dogs are prone to hip dysplasia. I am not a vet, and I want your vet to sign off on it. If you have one here, I'm hoping. And so again, I watched this video, but just explain throwing treats up and down the stairs. You have a problem with that. All right, so exercise should be done every 2 to 4 hours. Dogs sleep, remember, about 15 hours a day, dogs your size. And so I want you to interpret if Lyla comes up and she starts barking at you or whatever, that she needs some exercise. Don't interpret that as being nuisance. So remember, if she barks at you, we're going to make her do 2 other things before we do something else. So if she jumps up at you or barks at you, you're going to tell her to get down. When she gets down, then you're going to tell her to sit. And then you can go take her to fetch. Or you can just kind of, when she jumps up, wait, be boring. And when she gets down, then tell her to lay down. Then tell her maybe to sit or lay down over here, then go out and play fetch or whatever the exercise is. Otherwise, if you go bang, bang. So if I jump up, you freeze, and when I get down, you give me a treat, well, I'll jump up on you again to get that treat for getting down, or I'll bark at you, or whatever the case may be. All right, so remember, anything your dog's doing when you pet it is what you're rewarding. Anything your dog does in your presence you don't disagree is the same thing as saying yes. Not saying no is pretty much the same thing as yes. So basically, you want to disagree unless the dog's intention is to get a response out of it. So the dog's barking because it wants a response. Well, then if I say stop, that worked. So if the dog's barking at the window, we would want to correct that. But better for that than correcting, because again, that does get attention from the human. I recommend the guardian cover the bottom pane of the 2 windows here in the living room with white paper. That way you can have your blinds open. The dogs are over there, they can't see out. Now, if they do figure out to stand up, you might have to go a little bit higher. But the idea is when they go to the window, they don't get the validation of barking and seeing the other dog or the person leave because they think they caused that person to leave. So if they go over there and they can't see out the window, even if they hear somebody out there, they bark, but they can't tell if they made them leave or not. All right, so other forms of exercise, I would get a couple snuffle mats. They're about $16 a piece, and you can wash them after each feeding. But dogs using their nose is very draining and very stimulating and very relaxing. So if you feed them out of snuffle mats, that can really help drain some energy through regular activity. What I recommend the guardian do here, though, is because they like to fetch, or at least one of them does. The other one maybe the stairs. So what you want to do, get up, go to either do the stairs or the fetch with one dog. And then once that dog gets the maximum or whatever the number that you're going to practice with, put that dog in the kennel or leave it outside or whatever. Come in and do the stairs for the dog. doggy stairmaster until they're done. Then let them breathe and kind of catch their breath while you go do your shower and do the rest of your deal. But they need exercise, like I said, every couple hours, and they're in a kennel for a little bit longer than I would like, so really exercise them ahead of time. But do it early, because you not only need to exercise them, you need to give them time to cool down. After exercise, they need at least 10 minutes to cool down. Then they need to eat, and they're going to need to go to the bathroom 5 minutes after they eat. And so you don't want to try to do this all at the end, because then you're rushing. So if you get up and make the exercise the first thing, let them do their business, then do the exercise, then you get ready, then you feed them breakfast when they've calmed down, after you've showered, and then you go back and get dressed while, or when they get done eating. Then when you leave, they have enough time to have a potty break and all the rest of that stuff. You got to work out your own schedule, obviously, but that's kind of the general broad strokes of what I'd like you to do. Also, you can get one of those Omega Paw treat balls. Those are really great. The one that I showed you in the video is a large, and that's the biggest one I would get. I would get one of those, and you could feed maybe one a snuffle mat, one with that, but I would try to do them. I would probably prefer to have them both doing the same thing, so it takes about the same length of time. One might take a lot longer. The snuffle mat's easier than the Omega treat ball. So, but those are ways to drain their energy. Also, there are puzzles that you can get for them that is also physically draining. It helps their problem solving. Lyla is a pretty smart dog. Smart dogs need more challenges. So there's things like little sliders that you put in. There's a Kong Weeble Wobble. You got to do it. There's a whole bunch of treat dispensing toys. Go to Chewy or Amazon. You'll find a whole bunch of options for those. I usually just do recommend picking them up afterwards. I think we were talking about how one of the dogs broke it to see why it stopped paying off. So after the food, put it back up. All right, so exercise is really going to be a big component. Remember, before you're going to try to get the dogs together or go for a walk or again have guests over, exercising them first will produce a much better result. It's not going to fix your problem, but it's going to make it easier to deal with. In the meantime, you want to try to avoid getting around other dogs. The Guardian's doing a good job of this to begin with. Remember to use that second fence if the neighbor that moves in next door does have a dog. So put that temporary fencing up. If you can't figure out how to get that, message me. I have links and pictures I can show you of the stuff that I've had clients use that work really well. Because it's wintertime, the ground will freeze. So since you're probably going to do that, you don't know if your neighbor's going to do it or not. You might want to go there like, I don't know what they look like. If you look at them from the top, they look like the Van Halen logo. It's like that's kind of what it looks like. It's like this with a V. And that's if you're looking at it from the top. So that's what I actually attach the fence to. Once the ground freezes, you're going to have a real difficult time getting that into the ground. So you might want to go to Lowe's or Home Depot and get those bars first, and it'll be in the outdoor center. And I would get them probably about 6 feet tall. You're going to sink them into the ground about a foot to 2 feet. And so it's only going to give you about 5 feet. It's fine. I don't think they're going to jump over it. They might. If they do, let me know, and I've got another trick for that. But you might want to put those posts in first. Maybe get 8 feet tall ones, so you can put them down 2 feet, and then you still have 6 foot of that fence. But you want to prevent them from getting to the actual privacy fence and that extra distance. Keep it about, maybe move about 7 feet apart. I haven't seen the size of your backyard, but I'm guessing you have a good sized backyard. So you want to have about 7 feet away from the actual fence to keep them from getting to it. That'll help if the dog's next door because it's not so intense. All right, so exercise, remember, mischievous behavior, I want you to interpret that as the dog needs more exercise, not as being naughty. And throughout the day, I'd like to make sure that you're walking the dogs at least once a day, and it doesn't have to be a long walk, but let them sniff as much as they want, maybe just around the cul-de-sac minimum. And so then bring that dog and walk the other dog. And again, exercising them ahead of time might be helpful. This time of the year, you're not going to run into a lot of people on walks other than like probably about 4:30 to about 5:45. That's like the prime time that people walk their dogs. And so if that's the case, that's fine. This is just for you. It's not a big deal. But you want to avoid, and we call that maintenance. Otherwise, the more practice they get at barking at the dogs, the more we're likely to do that. All right, we've also talked about creating a healthy leader-follower dynamic by enforcing rules. Before we do that, we talked about dog psychology, but the long and short of it is make sure you don't break a rule to reward the dog. And remember, anything your dog is doing when you pet it is what you're rewarding. So if you want to reward it for doing things you want versus what they want, but don't break a rule as a reward. Pet their belly, play fetch or whatever it is. Also, before that, I forgot one last thing. The eye fetch. I would really recommend somebody talks to Santa Claus and get one of those for Christmas. If the dogs can, and if you put it over there and point it down the stairs and she can practice playing there, come up with a word for it, and she comes up to be a nuisance and you don't want to get up, you can just say PT or whatever it is, and the dog goes over and plays fetch with herself and burns that energy. After a while, you probably won't have to tell her so much. She'll just do it on her own. But exercise, again, throughout the day, multiple times a day, and mischievous behavior should interpret, I need more exercise. Okay, so we talked about rules. Some of the rules, number one, not being allowed the furniture. Definitely not allowed up here because the higher a dog sits, more rank or social status. So we're going to take away all furniture privileges except for the bed. The dogs sleep with the guardian in the bed, but that needs to be only with an invitation from the guardian when she is ready, after she's gotten into bed and when she's ready to go. And it's where she would like the dogs to be, not where the dogs would like to be. If they start being a nuisance, then they lose the bed privilege. The rules should be in place for at least 90 days or as long as the problems are still going on. So if the dog's not allowed up here, the guardian can always go down here and put some pillows on the floor, be like a drive-in movie theater. You can snuggle up with them as much as they want, but think of this as like, this is the officer club and the guardians are the officers, the dogs are the enlisted. They are down on the ground. You can go to them, but they can't come up to your level. You might want to get those X mats to help police them from getting off. They're about 11, there's 13 bucks a piece, but it just makes it a lot easier to have those. Put one here, and then you can sit here and watch the middle. Oh, I'd let you up, but the thing's there. I'm sorry, buddy, but there's the dog bed right over there. Or you can go to your kennel or whatever it is. Let me see. If you have problems getting to go to the kennel or to the dog bed, let me know. I can show you an exercise to do that, but it sounds like they're okay with that. Every once in a while, leave a treat over there, so that creates more of a longing to want to go there, or at least to check it out. And if the dog goes and sits and lies down there, come up with a command word for it. Call it Fallujah, or maybe a more positive place, but Paris or whatever you want. So every time the dog goes there on its own, get up. Even if you don't want to get up, just say the word Paris. I have 2 dog beds. I call one Jamaica, and the other one I call, what do I call the other one? Oh, I'm being brain fart. I'm really having a rough day. But basically, in Venice, because I live in Santa Monica too. Yeah. So basically what I do is I throw the treat on the bed. Now, anytime the treat goes in the mouth, they should hear the command word immediately after the treat goes in their mouth. So treat first or pet first, command word after, or basically the same time but slightly after. So if I throw it on the dog bed and the dog goes and licks it up and has one paw, I say the word Jamaica. Well, every time I hear Jamaica is when I'm over there. So at first I throw the treats. I can just sit here, throw another one, and wait for the dog to vacate. Eventually, then when the dog goes away, now the dog bed I normally like to get light gray, white, or light cream. There's a pattern on it. Sometimes it's hard for dogs to see. I also prefer dog beds are more like a cushion on the couch. The one we have here is kind of like a duvet cover, and it's got, right now you can see there's a bunch of lumps in it. So it's hard to leave a treat right here and have them see it. But if you have a light color, and you might want to just wrap that one in like a white sheet or a light gray or a light cream. That way, if they can see the treat instantly, and they'll go over there and get it. And when they do, you just say the word. So first we leave treats or throw treats to get the dogs to entice to go there, and then we say the word when it goes in their mouth. Then the next stage is when they go there on their own. Then we go give them a treat or say the word. Now we're rewarding them after they do it. I'm going to go through a couple of the rules here, but I just want to do this in the middle of it. And if I book another session, tell me to rewatch this video, because these are notes almost for myself. The dogs also like to lunge at the TV. It's an impulse control thing. I showed some impulse control exercises, actually tailored in the video above, went over it. But basically, practicing that stuff will help it. It might take care of this. It might not, it might. But if it does, if you're still having this problem, let me know. We can go over a counter conditioning exercise and desensitize the dogs so they don't react when they see dogs or animals on TV. And then also loose leash walking, make sure you let us know about that. We can set you up with that class. And then there's the guardian, there's kind of a blend going on right now, and the other partner has a dog. And so we're trying to keep them apart. Exercising them beforehand and walking them together is a good thing, but don't let them play afterwards. And I'm assuming you live close by. So basically, if you can get into a habit of walking, especially Lyla, together with the other dog, and if she's reacting, you're too close. The whole point is when we're doing these things is the dog can't react negatively. It might be where you're literally on other sides of the street with a street in the middle. That's okay. Just try to set it up so we're all even. Whoever's in front can be perceived to be in charge. So if we keep all the people like on the same level, that, human, dog, and a street in between. And eventually you kind of go like triangular shape. This might take several walks until you can get right side by side. I think you guys have achieved it side by side, but if there's any reaction, just immediately increase distance. But make sure you're walking. Don't let them stop. Don't let them sniff each other or hang out. We just want to build positive associations. There's a lot of other things, little tricks that we can do. Introducing the dog's scent and marking the scent with a reinforcer, and click for looks. There's a lot of other things I can do these are, again, notes for me. So when I look at this, I know what to do next. All right, so getting back to rules, another rule should be the dogs have to sit at the door. I go to the door and I command them to sit one time. Don't ask, tell. Sit. If they don't sit within 3 seconds, walk away, sit down nearby, and wait for 1 minute. Set a timer if you have Google, Siri, Alexa, one of those things. After 1 minute, go back to the door and command them again to sit. If they don't sit this time, within 3 seconds, I walk away and I sit down for 2 minutes. Next time I sit down for 4 minutes, then for 8 minutes. I keep double length of time until eventually when I tell them to sit, they sit. And as soon as they do, I open the door and let them out. If one sits and the other one doesn't, let the one who sit out. The other one who didn't sit doesn't get to go out. So I'm paying for performance. And after a while, the dogs will go sit at the door as their way of asking to like to go outside. Do it with both directions eventually, but start off with whatever direction they're more motivated to do. Another rule, I'd like you to go structured feeding. Again, if you go to doggoneproblems.com, you can kind of use the same technique that I showed you with the kitchen. And that's another, if you want to search for the video that shows that, I call it invisible boundary, and I've got a bunch of videos that go over how to do that. But I want you to start feeding them one at a time. So the humans whose feeding is going to eat first, then we're going to invite Maya, and Maya is the older dog and has better behavior, so we're going to feed her while she's eating. Lyla is not allowed to be within 7 feet. When Maya gets done, Maya has to leave the area. We dump any empty food out of her bowl, but make sure you put her empty bowl on the ground. Then she has to leave the area, and then we invite Lyla in, and Lyla gets to eat without Maya being within 7 feet of her. And so that way both dogs get to see the human acting like a leader by policing this. They are practicing self-restraint because they want to come in, but they can't because they haven't got permission. And that just is a nice ritual that we go through twice a day, every day. It really helps reinforce, because eating is a really important activity for dogs. Because eating is so important, the humans should not allow the dogs to be within 7 feet of them when they're eating, or in the kitchen when we're preparing food. So what I recommend is there's kind of it's a big open area, but they have this little wall here. So I'd say if you're cooking, they can't be in the kitchen to the far side of the wall. If you're in the dining room, they can't be in the dining room to the far side of the wall on this side. So that way they can go in the kitchen if they want, but they can't come to you. And when there's no food being cooked or being served, then they can come and go as they please. But when there's food, no. And again, another opportunity to practice a little impulse control. Let me see, what else? We also went over petting with a purpose and passive training. Petting with a purpose is if you want to pet the dog, or the dog nudges you or barks or demands attention, you're going to give the dog a counter order. Tell it to sit or to lie down. By the way, don't practice shake anymore with your dogs. It gets dogs in a lot of trouble, because if you like this, you must really like this, is how they think about it. But when they jump up on us when we come home, is their way of claiming us when somebody new arrives. And so if one dog claims and the other dog claims, now you can easily create a fight between those two. I claim it first. I'm in charge. No, I'm in charge. That's why we want to force the rules, so the humans look like they're the ones in charge of the dogs. And it's really important in these dogs because they're herding breeds. Even the third dog is a herding breed. And so those dogs are more designed to be in charge. So they need more rules and structure than other types and breeds of dogs. So, all right, so for petting with a purpose, if the dog comes over and nudges you, you give a counter order to sit. If the dog sits within 3 seconds, you pet it under his chin and say the word sit once. Or, well, you can pet anywhere, just don't pet on top of the head. And then you say sit once, not good sit, not the dog's name, just sit, not sit, sit. They hear inflections, 2 different words. Or if you want to say siéntate, you want to do a little Spanish. And so the idea is we're going to associate the command word with the action. I really give a command twice. I tell the dog what to do in command stage. Sit. When the dog sits, I pet it on his chin and say the word sit a second time to let the dog know why I'm petting or paying it. And petting on the chin facilitates the nose up. It's just a good habit to get into. So basically, I tell the dog to sit. If it sits, then I pet it on his chin, say sit, and I pet it as much or as little as I want. If it doesn't sit, guess what? Playing hard to get works great for dating. It works great for dogs too. So if you don't do what I want, then you're not getting anything from me. Now, one of the dogs, Lyla, is gonna bark a lot. Now, for the barking, what I would do, if she comes up and she wants attention from you and she barks, again, the first thing I would do is I would wait for her to stop barking. Then I would tell her to sit. Then I would tell her to lay down. And if she did, then I would take her to the stairs or outside play fetch for whatever the reasonable period of time is. Once you come back in, if she barks at you, the first time she barks at you, get up, leave, go beyond a door somewhere, and close the door with the other dog and your partner. So when you bark at me, not only am I not going to play with you, it's going to make me leave. And when you're in the other room and she's barking outside, now she might scratch at the door, so go to a door, maybe the same door if she's going to do it. I had one guy that got a plexiglass thing. He put it on the door with 3M Velcro tape. So the dog scratches the door. He's like, I don't care. She's not scratching the wood. I don't care. But if he scratches the door and then you open the door, well, that's the way I'm going to tell you to open the door. So what you want to do is if she's scratching or barking, wait for her to stop for like even just a second and a half, then come out. And she barks again, go back in there. So again, you're going to do this a lot back and forth, starting and stopping a lot. Remember, the first couple, it might probably get worse before it gets better. But if you are consistent and you let her know, look, I don't care how much you bark. As soon as you bark, I leave if you want to. And you can make it second bark or third bark, but whatever mark of the bark, make sure it's consistent. Don't do it one bark this time, 3 times that time, then they don't know. I would just suggest the demand barking 1, boom, and I'm gone. And we're not punishing or correcting, we're just leaving the opposite of what the dog wants. For going back to petting with a purpose, if the dog tells you what to do, nothing happens other than you tell the dog to do something else. If it does what you want, guess what? It gets hooked up, it gets paid. If it doesn't do what you want, no payment, no punishment, no correction, nada. And so I'm giving you the option. Door A is you get something you want. Door B is nothing happens. It doesn't take long for the dog to go to door A. The dog will realize I can't tell her what to do anymore. I have to ask. And better than ask, I have to pay for the privilege of her attention. And I pay for it through a currency of obedience. And the dog will start coming and sitting in front of you to prepay for the attention. You bet your butt you better start petting when they do that, otherwise you go back to barking or nudging you. But now I pet once to an infinity number of pets, whatever I want, and then I go back to doing what I'm doing. When the dog, and on top of the prepaying, we won't realize, I come up with a watchword for this because we don't realize how often we pet the dog without a purpose. So remember to use the watchword paycheck. Somebody comes in, sees you're petting one of the dogs and the dog's standing up, and your partner says paycheck, you have to say, stop petting, even if you did it right. Say sit. If the dog sits, you put it on the chain and say sit, and said, thank you, sweetie. I actually did pet before when you opened the door. She stood up and I continued petting her, but thank you for helping me out. Remember, it's a gentle reminder, not a gotcha. And even if you want to pet the dog, you should still tell her to sit. If she doesn't, show her, I got other things to do. After a while, she starts longing, missing that, and that motivates her to want to do it more. Now, we also talked about passive training. Passive training is waiting for the dog to organically offer you the behavior that you want and rewarding them. Most of the time, our command words mean the end of fun. They're having a great time yelling, bark at the squirrel in the yard. I go out and say, come. They come, and I close the door. Well, shoot, I can't yell at the squirrels anymore. So next time, I'm just not going to listen to you. So passive training is just waiting for the dog. When Maya comes up to you, pet her and say, come. Lyla sits down, pet her and say, sit. They lay down, set him down. Name all your toys, which you already have. Come up with a word for each one of them to go to their kennel. I wouldn't say kennel for both of them. Throw the treat in the kennel on this side, and whoever side this is, when she goes in there, I'm assuming that you don't let them switch, right? Okay, good. So throw it in there and maybe call one Paris and one's Rome, or whatever the word is you want to use. And so you throw it in there. That way you can say Paris, and Maya knows that means I go to the kennel. If you say kennel and you only want them to go, they're both going to go. So this way you can create a command word for each one to go in there, just like we talked about the dog bit. Passive training, what we're doing is we're celebrating the things the dog wants. So if somebody, that's a watchword that we use. So if somebody says celebrate to me, I look at the dog and whatever the dog's doing, I would pet and I would narrate and say the command word. If it's standing there, I assume it came to me, I would pet it and say come. If I look at it sitting, pretty obvious. Laying down, pretty obvious. So we were going to miss these things. So we're helping check each other. So again, it's a gentle reminder. It's like a sit, thank you. It's not a gotcha. I also recommend you come up with a list of the official command words and then say vocabulary to each other if you're using a different version. Come here, over here, dog's name, dogs, there's all these versions of them where if you speak English, they mean the same thing, but to dogs, those are completely unique command words. The guardian actually works in kind of communication of sorts, and so she can understand that. If you understand the language, there's a lot of different ways of saying it, but if you don't understand the language and you're first learning it, it's very stressful and frustrating because you can't hear all the words that are not in your lexicon yet. So the more we say it, the less we mean it to dogs. The more words we use, the harder it is for them to understand. That's why I don't like saying good dog when a dog sits. I like to say whatever it's doing and just one word commands. Come up with a list of the official command words and then check each other. Say vocabulary or whatever else. I usually say Scrabble if you're using, oh, what a good girl, you sat down. Scrabble, sit. Because sat and sit are different words. So it'll just help you consolidate and makes it a lot easier. I also say repeat or rerun if we're saying the command word multiple times. Remember, the more you say it, the less you mean it. I would say ball like 1,000 times if you want to get rid of that association. That's not a bad one. But some dogs go for a walk and they have to spell it out. And I would just say it a bunch. Same thing, knocking on the wall. So if you're watching TV downstairs and there's nobody there, reach back and knock on the wall. When the dogs aren't looking, they run upstairs. But guess what? Nobody comes in. They don't get validated. After a while, you desensitize them and you can knock and they don't come in. When they do bark and go like crazy, not the demand barking, but they bark at a squirrel or something, you could come up with a command word and make it a faux command. I had a client that said protect every time the dog saw a squirrel. Then she had a creepy guy come to her door. She said protect. Her dog went batshit crazy and the person ran away. Well, it's a very happy dog, but she was able to trigger the response that she wanted, and the person behind the door doesn't know it. Now, these dogs, I'm sure, will come to her guardian's protection if she needs. Actually, guardian probably be protecting the dogs here. But it's nice to be able to get that on command, not having the dogs do it when you don't want to do it, when it is a guest that you want. So being able to trigger it is a lot nicer. We also talked about the escalating consequences. If you forget what those are, message me. Those I don't really like to put on video because some people use them out of context and it takes a little bit more explanation. Remember, don't punish or correct negative. If she's reacting to another dog, the best and only thing to do is increase the distance between her and whatever the other dog is. Another note for myself is I could probably do a focus exercise and teach the dogs to focus on your command if we do another repeat session. Can you let them in? Anything else you want me to talk about? It's like I've done this before. Look at the guardian's already doing a great job of telling them to sit. Before you, we're gonna have them come up here hopefully, and there we go. Lyla, this is Lyla, and look at me getting all excited. Yes, Maya, this is Maya dog, and that was Lyla dog, and this is the roadmap to success. Remember, everything you do trains your dog. Only sometimes you don't.